Ukraine's historic resistance has disrupted the Russian army's entire order. As a result of the counter-operations launched by the Ukrainian army, Russian soldiers began to surrender. This is causing new problems. The crisis in Russia is deepening as a result of the surrender of Russian soldiers. Before we dwell on the details of this crisis, there are some questions we need to answer. What is going on in the Russian army, which claims to be the most powerful army in the world? What is the truth behind the surrender of Russian soldiers? First of all, let's be clear. Russia is ruled by an oppressive regime. Putin, who claims to love his nation, is leading his own people into poverty and death. No democratic institution in Russia is functioning properly. The Russian people want this war to end as soon as possible, but Putin's government insists on continuing the war, because Putin needs this war to preserve his power. So what is the connection between this war and Putin's preservation of power? Putin has ruled Russia for 23 years. During this time, Putin has increased his repressive policies and has become increasingly authoritarian. This situation also affected the Russian economy very badly. Inflation has risen in Russia and the Russian people have started to react against Putin. Putin chose to increase the tension in the country in order to unite the Russian people. He chose an easy target and attacked Ukraine. Putin wanted to show his power to the whole world by winning an easy victory in Ukraine. Success in this war was especially important to regain the respect of the Russian people. But Putin's dreams did not come true. The whole Russian people are trying to wake up from a big nightmare. After the failure in Ukraine, Putin realized that the Russian army was in a very inadequate state. The mobilization decision he announced to solve this problem is still being debated. The 300,000 soldiers that Putin forced into the army with this decision do not want to fight. That's why Russian soldiers started to surrender en masse. In point of fact, for conscripted soldiers, surrender was their very last option. Before that, they experimented with a variety of other approaches. The first one was not even going to be required to serve in the military. Following the announcement that the military would be mobilized, millions of Russian citizens left their country. Particularly those who could have been drafted into the armed forces made a hasty escape. They eluded capture by fleeing on bicycles, in boats, on the chassis of trucks, and even on cargo ships. The reputation of Russia suffered a great deal as a result of these images. However, not everyone was so fortunate as to get away unscathed. Conscripts who were against their will attempted to flee from military bases. A total of approximately 200 soldiers are said to have deserted their post at the training camp in Belgorod. In addition, Russian soldiers on patrol in the Luhansk region secretly changed into civilian clothes and never went back to the army. On their respective social media accounts, the Russian soldiers each related to details of how they had evaded capture. The Russian public displayed a significant amount of interest in the stories of these soldiers' escapes. Russian soldiers did something even more fascinating. Mutinies broke out at a number of Russian military bases. As a direct consequence of these revolts, a great number of generals were removed from their positions. There was not even the tiniest shred of hierarchy left in the Russian armed forces. The Russian army didn't experience its true though until much later. The moment Russian soldiers caught sight of the Ukrainian army, they promptly raised the white flag. Because Russian soldiers surrendered while flying the white flag, Russia was forced to give up a significant number of its bases. The Russian soldiers that surrendered were given excellent treatment by the Ukrainian administration. A Russian soldier who had to surrender recorded in a video in which he discussed his experiences after doing so. According to the soldier, they're provided with really good treatment. In the footage, a Russian soldier can be heard saying, "This place provides us with hot meals and mattresses. They are really comfy. The conditions at this base are significantly more favorable than those at the Russian base. Nobody yells at us, and I don't have to follow the absurd commands given by the superiors." The video showing a Russian service member rapidly went viral within the Russian armed forces. Following the playback of this movie, thousands of Russian soldiers made the decision to surrender. The Ukrainian army is quite active in this dissemination of video footage showing the capitulation of Russian troops. The Ukrainian army is continuously monitoring the Russian army from the air using unmanned aerial vehicles and recording videos of their movements. The Ukrainian army is one that is giving the press information on all of the Russian army's shortcomings. These photographs shed light on the incompetence that permeates the Russian armed forces. A brand new video was released today by the Ukrainian General Staff. The Russian soldier appears to become aware of the drones that are tracking him at some point throughout this film. The Russian soldier then exhibits a significant amount of panic. The soldier raises both hands into the air and moves forward in a deliberate manner. The drones did not stop following the Russian soldier right up until the moment that he handed himself up to the Ukrainian troops. These pictures garnered a lot of attention on various social media platforms. Every day, more and more Russian soldiers relinquish their weapons. White flags have been hoisted in place of their Russian counterparts atop numerous of Russia's military installations. The Russian army has lost control of numerous districts thanks to their own incompetence. The blue and red hues that are featured on the Russian flag are not seen very often these days. The majority of Russian military installations fly the white flag. One other advantage for Ukraine stems from the Russian soldiers' decision to surrender. A significant number of Ukrainian government employees have been held hostage by Russia in the occupied regions of Ukraine's territory. It is necessary for the Ukrainian army to engage in prisoner exchange in order to free these detainees. The Ukrainian army is currently engaging in a prisoner exchange using the Russian soldiers who have surrendered. Therefore, the Ukrainian military gains a significant advantage as a result of Russian soldiers' decision to surrender. The reputation of the Russian army has suffered significant damage as a result of the surrender of Russian army soldiers. The assertion that the Russian military was the most powerful in the world was nothing but a fairy tale made up by Russia. The Russian people have now awakened to the reality of the situation as a result of the historic resistance of the Ukrainian army. The overwhelming loss in Russia has also left a sour taste in the mouths of the Russian people. Putin had the intention of regaining the reputation that he had lost, but now he is truly embarrassed. Putin's status in Russia has significantly declined in recent years. The political career of Vladimir Putin, according to the opinions of experts, is nearly at an end. What are your thoughts on the soldiers in Russia giving up their weapons and surrendering? In what ways, in your opinion, does the surrender of soldiers change the trajectory of the war? What are your thoughts on the dissatisfaction that the Russian people have expressed? What do you think the effects of this war will be on the administration of Vladimir Putin? What do you think? Share it with us. Follow us for more updates.